Good evening and welcome to this special edition of Fine Point. I'm your host, Rion. Can you feel it in the wind? It's Inauguration Week. We're here in Washington, D.C. We spent the day on our D.C. Bureau's rooftop catching the biggest names in Trump world and getting their reactions to not only Biden's final shocking acts, but a peek at what they look forward to most under Trump 47, ranging from state attorneys general, a special panel with Mike Benz, Dr. Robert Malone, and John Mates, plus a nightcap you definitely don't want to miss. Enjoy. Joining us now is former Missouri Governor Eric Greitens. He's joining us now. Our friend, welcome back.
Chanel, it is great to be here. What a fantastic day for the country.
I know.
I think people, you can just feel in DC this tremendous energy, tremendous vibe. I think this is the biggest change we've seen in any administration in my lifetime, and you can feel it on the ground. People are so excited.
Well, not to be overly dramatic about it, but this feels way more exciting than even the Obama inaugurations. The Obama, for the Democrat Party, they had very few highlights and superstars. Yeah. But this is truly an administration I don't think any one of us have seen in our lifetimes.
Well, it's also an incredible story of a political comeback, which I think is also a story of the comeback of the country.
Yes.
You think about everything that this country has had to live through under Joe Biden. You think about the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. You think about COVID tyranny. You think about the suppression of free speech. Think about all of these things that the Biden administration have done. But the people of the United States of America stood up, they said no, and not only is President Trump coming back, but President Trump is bringing a team the likes of which this country has never seen. This is a MAGA team, and I think they're going to be able to drive tremendous change. And so I think that's one of the things that's so exciting about this moment.
Well, you're familiar with the importance of good teams, right?
Yes.
And so, the first round, he had a team,
yes,
and it was a little bit scrambled because you had a blend of people who were trying to work with the establishment.
Yeah.
This time around, it's different.
It's very different because they learned their lesson. And the lesson was you cannot try to work with an establishment that's lying to you. You cannot try to work with a corrupt establishment. You cannot try to work with an establishment that's trying to undermine the American people. And instead what they found is that we need this time to bring in a team that's going to actually pursue the agenda that the people of the United States of America voted for. And that's not the establishment agenda.
Yeah.
That's President Trump's MAGA agenda, and that's what we're going to see.
Well, on his way out, President Biden has issued these pardons, these preemptive pardons, never done before. We have never seen something like this happen. And so it raises a host of questions on the executive level, on the legal level. What's your initial reaction to preemptive pardons to General Milley, Fauci, and the J6 committee?
Well, I think what it says on a spiritual level, and yes, there's an executive debates, and there's going to be some debates about the legality of doing this preemptively. There's going to be a lot of debates about technically what's happened, but on a spiritual level, this is kind of a final shot from the Biden administration, admitting that this is the most criminal, corrupt administration that the United States of America has ever seen, that the things that Anthony Fauci did were not rooted in the Constitution, that the pursuit of the J6 committee, going after, viciously attacking American citizens, lying about President Trump, trying to push this false narrative. You've seen in everything that President Trump has endured, right? These absurd felony convictions in New York. You've seen how the judicial system has been twisted against the MAGA movement. It's been twisted against President Trump. And this is kind of Biden's final shot as he's leaving, admitting that what they did was not legal.
Well, you were also governor at a time when America saw riots in the streets, people burning things down, people taking to the streets and choosing violence over peaceful protest. And that has been such a hot topic in the past 4 years. The FBI villainized what President Trump is now calling the J6 hostages.
Yes.
They've used that as against the entire movement. On the flip side, you walked in here today. I don't think there's a huge contingent of opposition protesters happening. A lot of people are worried that the opposition is so quiet. Why do you think they are?
Well, I think I'll say positively. I think one of the things that's happened is that President Trump won. He won the popular vote. He won all of the swing states. He won the Electoral College. And what has happened now is that also the credibility of all of these institutions who used to attack the president has been so greatly diminished that they don't have anything like the power that they had 8 years ago. Think about the reputation of the FBI back in 2016 compared to where it's at in 2025. Think about the reputation even of the mainstream news media. People used to still believe them back in 2016 and 2017. No one believes them today. So you think about whether it's the FBI, the mainstream media, the political establishment, all of these institutions that declared war on President Trump and on the American people, they have been beaten down. And so I think that is extraordinarily positive. I do think that this is not a time for MAGA patriots to sit back. This is a time for MAGA patriots to lean in and say, we need to get President Trump's team in, and we need to take this momentum in the first day, then the first 10 days, and the first 100 days of this administration to push as much MAGA legislation as we possibly can, to drive those changes through the executive branch, which we're going to do with the executive orders, and to make sure that the MAGA agenda stays at the forefront of everyone's mind. If we take our foot off of the gas, it's just going to give those other forces an opportunity to respond.
What is your take on the current lineup, the team going in to run the Pentagon? There's a lot of cleanup.
Yes.
Pete Hegseth is DOD Secretary. Huge, dramatic change of pace from the last 4 years. How much adjustment and change is going to happen in the next few months? And will the Pentagon be able to adapt and react?
I think there has to be massive change at the Pentagon to reflect President Trump's agenda, to reflect the MAGA agenda.
But the Pentagon is the most difficult place to change in the world. How do you do it?
The Pentagon's going to be very hard to change. And one of the keys is that personnel is policy. One of the most important things that Secretary Hegseth can do is to pay very specific attention to the promotion of flag officers and general officers. And for folks who don't know, who are listening, that means your admirals and your generals. When they get 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, 4 stars, those promotions have to be paid great attention to, because the people who are in office, who are our senior leaders in the military, are going to be setting a tremendous amount of policy. And we need to make sure that we have leaders who have fidelity to the Constitution and who are really going to pursue the vision of having a strong American military, who's focused on defeating our enemies and making sure that we can States of America, rather than pushing the woke policies that we saw during the Biden administration. We need leaders who are going to bring America back to its core military mission.
As a former Navy SEAL, someone who served in the Navy, you've had a lot of experience both leading men and following leaders inside the military. And right now, the Secretary of the Navy is Secretary Phelan. He's the incoming secretary. And some people are concerned he has zero background in the military. There's nothing about him that says Navy. But he specifically wanted this role, and he wanted it for a very specific purpose. Your thoughts on his mission going in?
Yeah, well, I have tremendous confidence in President Trump and the team around him, and I believe that they can also support the Secretary in making sure that he can, as you know, the Navy is over the Navy and the Marine Corps, making sure that that whole Navy Marine Corps family is again driven towards our core mission of actually defending the United States of America.
But the point of bringing in Phelan is the narrative has been that he's a businessman and he is going to straighten out our shipbuilding capacity. Are we in trouble? So where are we in terms of shipbuilding against someone like China?
So the shipbuilding capacity is a massive issue, and the Trump administration is right to focus on it. There has been a tremendous shift over the course of the last couple of decades in shipbuilding capacity, which has left not only the United States, but also our allies in Great Britain, in Australia. And it's moved primarily to China, but also to Asia in general. So when we're talking about military and also commercial ships, most of that shipbuilding now is happening in Asia. We need to get that back online.
That's stunning.
What we're seeing now is there's a 12-to-1 ratio of fighters that the Chinese have to U.S. fighters in the Pacific. We need to make sure that we are keeping up both in terms of quality and quantity with our adversaries.
And such a refreshing change of pace, again, from the Pentagon that's been focusing on DEI to now talking about things that actually have to do with our national security. Well, before you go, what have you been most surprised about as we walk into this inauguration?
You know, Chanel, I'm just really happy for the country. I'm really, really happy for the country. So many citizens have had to endure so much. And not just the J6 prisoners or the people who had their businesses targeted during COVID or people who've had to suffer under the Biden administration's assault on free speech. That's happened to millions of Americans. But for almost every American, we've been living under this cloud. And I think now people are really willing to come back and say, like, let's recapture our spirit. Let's recapture our pride. Let's bring back the things that are best about the United States of America and celebrate them here at home and also share them abroad. And I'm really happy for the country.
It's an exciting chapter.
Absolutely.
Good to have you back.
Thank you so much, Chanel. Thank you.
All right, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.